I will admit that I started my project with a Google search that probably went something like notable women in bluegrass history. But that's how I came across Hazel Dickens. She was probably the first name that came up in the AI overview. Not the most thorough search, but what began as a pretty surface-level inquiry quickly morphed into a much more interesting look at Appalachian history and music. I'm here in the forests of Oregon, far from the mountains of Appalachia, but what I discovered is that centering the music of Hazel illuminates a living record at the intersection of labor and women's rights that both responded to and shaped not only the lives of working Appalachians, but that of working women throughout the United States. Hazel was born in Mercer County, West Virginia, as one of 11 children born to a primitive Baptist preacher who worked hauling timber for the coal mines. Her brothers, too, worked in the mines. Her mother stayed at home raising the children. Such a family would later be romanticized at the height of the Cold War, when, as Elaine Tyler May writes in Homeward Bound, the post-war domestic dream idealized male breadwinners supporting affluent suburban homes. In short, quote, American women, unlike their purposeful Russian counterparts, did not have to be hardworking. But this was not the reality for many of the working poor. As Hazel puts it,
crazy to say my mother never worked, because my mother did nothing but work all her life. But she never worked out in public works.
Hazel was quick to repudiate any notion that women's labor was not labor, or that, as conservative women's activist Phyllis Schlafly put it in What's Wrong with Equal Rights for Women, quote, the family gives a woman physical, financial, and emotional security for all her life. As May writes, fears of the atomic age served as a catalyst for the elevation of domesticity that placed the suburban home at the center of American political life. Yet not everyone found refuge in the home. For Hazel, leaving home to work in Baltimore in 1954 represented freedom, if not security.
I left home when I was 16, and I had to wait till I was 17 to get a job. One of the winters before I came up, I had stayed in the house all winter because I didn't have a coat. The first job I got was in a factory, and I worked about 3 factories, and then I got a job as a waitress, and then I went into sales work. And it was really nice to be able to go out. I took my whole paycheck every time I got it, and I went out and spent it on clothes, and I bought a used guitar, almost out of my first paycheck.
Hazel's arrival in Baltimore coincided with what historian Henrietta Utero called the birth of an urban folk song movement. The movement sought to unite Appalachians who by this time had begun a massive migration to the urban north. Half a century earlier, black workers pouring into southern cities built something similar out of the dance halls and juke joints that Tara Hunter describes in To Joy My Freedom. Hunter argues that these spaces created, quote, an elaborate ethos that informed the ambitions, daily struggle, and consciousness of the working class who sought refuge in music.
Bluegrass at that point wasn't called bluegrass. Mm-hmm. They hadn't used that term yet in 1954 when we first met, and we're just beginning 54 and 55.
So we started creating our own scene after a while. The parties grew. There's many of a night that I stood up in the floor and played bass, and different people would come up to sing with me. And I stood there until 7 o'clock the next morning. Well, after we graduated from the living rooms, we started playing in some of the seedy bars around. And I like to say that I told my mother they were clubs. It sounded a little bit better.
For Hazel, the bluegrass movement represented a turning point. She began to frame her life as a political act, and her music reflected it.
I like to sing a song I wrote, a coal mining song, and this is called Coal Miner's Grave.
Hazel's life and the lives of those around her was defined by labor. After the Civil War, Appalachia rapidly industrialized, with the growth of cotton mills and coal operators. From the beginning, Appalachian women were pivotal in the labor rights movement. Mother Jones, Sarah Ogan Gunning, and Aunt Molly Jackson, who described herself as the original pistol packin' mama, were instrumental in organizing mine workers, particularly in bloody Harlan County during the strikes of 1931 and 32. The songs written by these women had dual effect. They both documented the strikes and the lives of the working poor while galvanizing the workers. As Uchiro writes, songs served a definite purpose, to help form a union and to lift the men in their struggle. The song, Which Side Are You On, written by Florence Reese after the Harlan County Sheriff ransacked her home in search of her union organizing husband, became a rallying cry for mine workers and their families during the strikes of the 30s and later in the 60s and 70s. These pioneering women of bluegrass, through their songwriting, created a living archive that documented their experiences while offering a response to the hardships they faced as the working poor in a rapidly changing Appalachia. Hazel was no stranger to the archive left by her peers. She wrote Black Lung as an homage to the mine workers and to her brother.
It was very astounding to me to learn that one of my brothers, my oldest brother, had lived his entire life and never got any further than he did when he first started out as a teenager in the mines. And he died with not enough to even bury himself. It just seemed like that in a country like this, that people shouldn't have to live and be buried as poor as when they came into the world. And that was the first that I began questioning the way the economy is in this world and the way that poor people are treated. So this is a song that I wrote for my brother so that he would have some kind of a voice in this world. He's had more hard luck than most men could stand. The mines was his first love, but never his friend. He's lived a hard life and hard he'll die. Black lungs done got him, his time is nigh.
Music offered a respite from the dissemblance of Appalachian workers. As historian Courtney Brooks writes in The Maternal is Political, the music of Hazel Dickens, quote, channeled immediate emotional reactions into resistance narratives, connecting the women's experiences as mothers, wives, workers, and witnesses of social injustice. Appalachian women's gender was inextricably linked to their activism. Their role as mothers legitimated their action as evidence of the fight to protect their household against the exploitation of the coal operators. As historian Christine Stansell puts it, quote, they carried on their female mission. This is illustrated by the role of Hazel's music during the Harlan County strikes of 1973 and 74 and the Pittston strikes during 1989 and 90.
We first heard songs from Hazel after the '68 disaster at Farmington. And then, of course, the Black Lung inspirational songs from her, and then the organizing songs that during the Harlan County efforts at Brookside. It inspired other labor leaders and other unions to get involved and other progressive people across the country to say, what's going on? So when someone of the talent and the magnitude of Hazel would come, it'd be people would draw strength from that and inspiration to go forward.
Don't support that rich man's style of luxury. And there ain't no way they can ever keep us down. Oh no, ain't no way they can ever keep us down. We won't be bought, we won't be sold to be treated right. Well, that's our goal, and there ain't no way they can ever keep us down.
Hazel was keenly aware of the intersection between gender and labor. Her life as a working-class woman was reflected in songwriting that not only documented but challenged paternalistic systems of oppression.
You pull the string, she's your plaything. You can make her or break her, it's true. You abuse her, accuse her, turn around and use her, then forsake her in
Don't Put Her Down was written in defense of prostitutes, who saw their profession demonized and vilified, absent a critical understanding of the structures that enabled their labor. Hazel is intentional with the use of the word you here. She isn't just passively describing injustices. Her songwriting puts her in direct confrontation with, quote, the world made by men. This wasn't an abstract. The women Hazel was writing about were the same ones who welfare policy experts and politicians were actively pathologizing. As Ricky Solinger writes in Beggars and Choosers, the state saw poor women as inherently lacking in maturity and competence, incapable of governing their own lives and bodies. Don't Put Her Down rejects this framework in its entirety, identifying the underlying misogynistic structures as the cause of poor women's struggle, not some inherent notion of deviance or failure. Hazel used her life as a springboard for talking about broader social and political issues, remarking that, quote, if there's any religion in my life, it's for the working class. As the women of the Combahee River Collective would later enumerate in a black feminist statement in 1977, quote, the liberation of all oppressed peoples necessitates the need to articulate the real class situations of persons who are not merely raceless, sexless workers, requiring an intersectional understanding of an individual's unique place within an exploitative capitalist society. Hazel's music did just that. It centered her personal life and the lives of Appalachians whom she was deeply familiar with, as a means of making direct conversation with the systems of oppression. For Hazel, there was no distinction between the personal and political. Her personal identity as a working-class Appalachian woman was a political identity. The two could not be separated, and her music reflected this.
Well, if she acts that way, it's 'cause you've had your day. Don't put her down, you help put her there. Well, if she acts that way, it's 'cause you've had your day. Don't put her down, you help put her there.
The fiddle workshop is canceled today because of the big snowstorm. So, I guess we won't be hearing any fiddle music.
I can't remember a time in my life when I haven't been playing fiddle. Playing Quebecois, Maritime, Irish, and Appalachian music was an integral part of my childhood growing up in rural Maine. It gave me a community and it gave me a creative outlet. And it was also a cause of immense frustration because playing fiddle is really freaking hard. Yeah, freaking sucks. I didn't know the history behind a lot of the songs, but I knew that I liked playing them. So when I got to Lewis and Clark, I started taking lessons again after a brief hiatus during the latter years of high school. I think I start like thinking about the notes more when I'm doing the improv, and it makes it harder to have the rhythm at the same time.
And trying to like think of it as like not working but playing, you know what I mean? Just see what happens. Like there's no pressure. Like I don't want to make something that's bad instead of just like just get in there and make something bad. I don't know.
Yeah. Playing fiddle here has helped me feel connected to my home and my childhood. It keeps me grounded and it gives me something to do after a long day of reading or classes. Researching the history of this music that has meant and continues to mean so much to me has been a really interesting experience. I've been carrying this music with me all my life, and knowing the history and the lives of the people who gave so much to give this gift to me has honestly been really meaningful. That being said, I think it's only right to let Hazel end this film.
Well, down in Russell County, no neutrals can be found. You'll either be a Union man or one of those Pittsburgh clowns. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me. Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
UMWA, ladies and gentlemen.